Every spring, stages across the country fill with commencement speakers, offering the same recycled advice. They promise clear, easy-to-follow blueprints for a successful life and a happy career. The problem is, our brains are exceptionally good at ignoring this kind of earnest, direct lecturing. When someone tells us exactly what to do, our natural instinct is to tune them out. Charlie Munger understood this cognitive blind spot better than almost anyone. As a self-made billionaire and the longtime business partner of Warren Buffett, Munger spent decades analyzing human behavior, but his teaching methods were completely unconventional. When it came time to educate his children or address crowds of eager business students, he refused to hand out lists of stock picks or 10-step guides to wealth. Instead, he would look at his audience and describe in exacting detail how they could absolutely ruin their own lives. If you sat down at the Munger family dinner table, you were almost certainly going to hear what his children called the downward spiral tale. Munger would outline the apocalyptic consequences of bad decisions, piling on horrific and extreme outcomes until his kids were simultaneously groaning and laughing at the sheer scale of the disaster. On the surface, this feels at odds with the public persona of a man known for his cold, objective rationality and deep reliance on mathematics and physics. But these dinner-time horror stories were a carefully constructed psychological tool. Munger knew that fear, humor, and exaggeration bypass the ego in a way that earnest advice cannot. To see how this works, we can look at a specific story Munger told his kids about a financial officer at one of his companies. In the story, this officer makes a severe miscalculation, a mistake that instantly costs the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. Realizing what he's done, the officer immediately goes to the president, confesses the error, and is surprisingly forgiven. The president tells him that people make mistakes, and staying honest is enough to keep his job. Then Munger would deliver the trapdoor. If the officer had attempted to cover up the loss for even a single minute, he would have been instantly fired, his reputation completely destroyed. Munger's children later referred to this tactic as indirection. Rather than giving them a stern lecture about the virtues of honesty, he packaged the lesson inside an anecdote about a third party. By focusing on someone else's potential disaster, Munger removed the personal sting. The listener doesn't feel attacked, which means they don't throw up a defensive shield, allowing the core lesson to actually sink in. This storytelling habit stems from a much larger framework Munger adapted from the 19th century mathematician Carl Jacobi, the principle of inversion. Inversion suggests that many of the hardest problems in mathematics, physics, and daily life are best solved by addressing them completely backward. You don't try to figure out how to achieve a goal, you figure out how to guarantee failure, and then you avoid doing those things. Munger applied this exact logic when he was asked to give the commencement speech at the Harvard School in 1986. True to form, he didn't offer the graduating class a roadmap for a happy life. Instead, leaning on advice from late-night host Johnny Carson, Munger provided a strict, reliable prescription for guaranteed misery. The list was simple: ingest chemicals to alter your mood, succumb to envy, hold on to resentment, and make sure you are completely unreliable to everyone around you. Plotting out the exact mechanics of a disaster is a highly reliable strategy. Success often involves a heavy dose of luck and timing, which makes it hard to replicate. Failure, on the other hand, is remarkably easy to reproduce. This brings us to the ultimate purpose of Munger's obsession with disaster. He was building a vast, accessible system for vicarious learning. A single human lifespan is simply too short for you to personally make every catastrophic mistake and recover from it. You have to learn from the wreckage of others. Munger advocated making friends with the eminent dead, studying historical figures like Charles Darwin or Benjamin Franklin to identify the fatal traps they faced, and using those lessons to build a mental latticework of what not to do. If you can reliably identify and dodge the most obvious, well-documented errors in human history, you don't actually need a grand blueprint for happiness. You are naturally left standing on the path to success. Charlie Munger himself often summarized this entire unconventional worldview by quoting a simple, memorable piece of rustic wisdom. "All I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there." You don't need a step-by-step guide to a good life. You just need a meticulously charted map of misery and the discipline to walk the other way.